This is Working with the Law, Week 2, with transformational life coach Christi Corradi.
Okay, so hello and welcome. This is Working with the Law, and today we are going to be exploring the law of thinking. But let's go right now into that place that we always start our work, and that is with the place of gratitude and the proud of. And today I will say that I am so very grateful for the breathing technique that Sarah has given me a week or so ago to help me sleep. It has just changed my life, and I'm so grateful for that, and I've had amazing nights of sleep. And I'm proud of noticing what I'm noticing. I'm proud of being on this journey, what I call my Southwest tour, and learning the nuances of traveling while doing this work, but also the inner work that I'm doing as I'm on this journey, my personal internal Southwest tour. So I'm proud of that. Knowing that we create that weave, that woven fabric that is the cloth that we will cut out our individual intentions from today, that woven cloth of gratitudes and proud of, and that vibrational tone, and that it creates that environment, that place to really allow this experience and this teaching and this work to really take us into a greater truth. So today we're going to explore the law of thinking, and the law of thinking is basically paying attention to what you're paying attention to, noticing what you're noticing, that our thought creates our experience. And as Wallace Waddell says, there is a thinking stuff which permeates, penetrates, and fills the infrastructure of all things. And thought in that thinking stuff must become form. And that is the law of thinking, that our thought is powerful, that our thought travels and manifests greater than the speed of sound, than of electricity, than of any of the other physical laws. It transcends all of that, and it must become a reality. And so the power of knowing the law of thinking is for us to be able to pause and notice what we're thinking and choosing deliberately our thoughts, stopping and being in the moment and pausing and enjoying the process of creating birthday party instead of the stress. And one of the things that I really enjoyed is where Mary talks about the idea of when we're cold, we focus on turning on the heat, and we focus on the heat or the fire, building a fire, rather than focusing on the cold. And when we walk into a home and it's dark, we turn on the light. We don't focus on the dark. And so in our experience, we don't even need to know what the root cause of the struggle is. We can, and that can be helpful at one level, but at a deeper level, all we need to do, as long as we have our vision, we have a purpose, we have a direction that we know we're going, then we just hit the pause button and we turn away from the struggle and we turn towards our vision, towards our direction. Whenever we go out in the world, we have the understanding and we can see how things work from this way, and therefore make a deliberate choice about the fact that our thoughts are the thing that generate and create the experience. And the way that it works is our thoughts create our feelings cause our actions, and our actions cause our results. And if we know that as we walk into the day, we can actually work backwards. It's like, what kind of result do I want to create? Therefore, what kind of thoughts do I want to have? And on page 15, it says, attention should be given to the predominant mental state, for it will regulate the action and direction of all one's forces, faculties, powers, the sum total of which will inevitably determine many particular experiences and the personal fate. And that is that kind of rule, that law, that the thought creates the feelings cause the actions cause the results. One of the things that I've been doing in my workshops now that I find to be very powerful is to help people develop their tagline. One of the things about the tagline is it really grounds it in a visceral type of experience. And it's wonderful that your boogeymen are coming up, but is there a way that you can say that same statement, maybe create that statement in a way that it connects on all of the senses? So one of the ways that working with this is that you're paying attention to your thoughts and then you're making a new decision to change your thoughts. So that's a wonderful way to work with it. And another way to work with it is to look at our results. What situation are we in? What thing don't we like the way that it's happening? And then trace it back to what feeling and what thought I had. I've had one accident where I rear-ended somebody. And somebody said, what was your thought just before that happened? I thought that was an interesting question. And I remember the thought that I had just before it happened. I don't remember it now. But I remember going, oh, I can see how that was the thing that caused the accident. So there was a result I didn't like. I was in the accident. I can look at, therefore, what is the thought? So, with my little tummy issues that I have going on right now, I can trace the thought to that. So can I go in and change that thought? Yes. And because sometimes we have these deep-rooted thoughts that are core, that it takes some practice. It takes some time continually returning to the thought that we want to have. I somehow was inspired to create as my own personal mantra right now to make life more meaningful as a vision, like to always continually moving in the direction of making life more meaningful. And so I can take that thought and instead of saying, oh, there's discord over here or there's discontent, I can simply say, what can I do to move in the direction of making life more meaningful and move in that direction? So it's about constantly being in the question, and I think sometimes people don't understand why the question is so important as opposed to the answer. Well, the reason that the question in our thinking, we want to craft the correct question, is because there are more solutions. The thinking stuff out there is much more intelligent than we are. We have a limited understanding. We have a direction from our past experiences. We have bought into the status quo, and some of buying into the status quo is really important. It helps us navigate living in this world. We live in a material world. We desire material things. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, that is this incarnation or this existence that we're living in. However, when I was in practitioner training, I asked my teacher, when do you know it's okay to tell a story or not? And she said, question your motive. And I think that's the same thing with when we desire something materialistic or like living in a beautiful house. Question our motive. Is our motive to show them? Is our motive to have, to grab, to hoard? Or is it to create, like my kitchen, to create a more beautiful, expansive experience of life, to do our teaching from, to have that meaningful life, to create creative thinking versus mental activity. Creative thinking, when we really access into that place of creating thinking, is from the depths of our soul. It is that connection with the infinite possibilities. So we can have the mental thinking, the chatter, the limitations, the history, the status quo, or we can, and that's one of the things the question helps us do, is craft the perfect question, the most highly calibrated question, so that we create almost like an open funnel. Like I'm imagining right now, or you can imagine right now, that my arms are open in a V, and I am open like a funnel to allow all the infinite possibilities of the universe to funnel into me, not just with my hands close up in a narrow, my idea of how it looks and what it looks like. So this is the basic core thinking. This is something that we know in this group that we have studied. And what is it that we need to remember about this? To continually remember to pause and think. What are we thinking right now? To pause when we're not feeling quite right and say, how can I turn the light on here? How can I move in the direction of? And why do we move in the direction of a vision? Because it is the greater expansion of spirit through us. That is our purpose. Whatever the specific avenues, mind being coaching and transformation. I mean, we're all here to transform lives of other people. This is what makes life meaningful. And that we are in that flow of that vibrational pool of the ever becoming expansive nature of the universe that we live in. I actually have an example of my own of a low calibrated question. And one is that when I was signing Aaron up online for a golf class, I was signing him up for a golf class in Santa Rosa. And I started to put my credit card in, and the time just didn't look right from what I'd seen in the catalog. And I went back and looked, and it was Santa Rosa, Florida, that I was about to book him in a class in. So one thing is specificity. So how specific are you? Now, specificity versus outlining or being directive, it's a practice. And so looking at your vision and crafting a question, looking at that, it's basically a practice of looking at the question and asking if this will move you in the direction of your vision, and it doesn't have the how in it. You can say, Divine Presence, show me how. You can ask Divine Presence that, but you don't say, I want to have this happen exactly this way. Show me how to do that. There has to be an openness to it, but a specificity. Do you have a question that you feel is finely crafted now?
What if I'm trying to choose between two options?
So write out both scenarios, just a short version, looking at things first at the factual level, that has all the elements in it, and then take the 5 questions that test your dream and see what comes up. Look at your core values. Do I believe I'm good enough to do what I love? You are far enough in this work right now that you have the insight and ability to discover what those paradigms are, and or to just turn away from them and say, I accept clarity. You have within you all that you need. Be that funnel to allow the divine to flow through you. There is a match with what you would love. And, I just went to, when I was at my last training, I went to Kirsten, my coach, and I said, I'm dealing with the paradigm. She says, go treat yourself like a client because you have all of the answers. Didn't feel really good at the moment, but it was brilliant. Have you seen this TED Talk by Jill Bolte Taylor? I just love that part of her where she talks about the expansiveness of the right brain, and then she talks about, or I can step to the left. And it's so clearly, and not that our left brain thinking is bad at all, and it's so clear to me that that is the fact when you operate out of the left brain, that is the fact, and those facts are really powerful and helpful. They remind us, as she says, to remember to pick up bananas on the way home. It's also the thing that saved her life. When she moved to the right brain, it was like, we got a problem here. And so we don't want to discount that, but we want to be at choice and at how and when we step into the right, and that we live from, my aspiration is to live from the right with a conscious awareness of the left, and let the left or the facts be governed from a place of that creative thinking, that connection with the divine. So we look at that from that place of truth. And that's one way that we move out of attachment. And just what we do with that experience of looking at the little self versus the all-connected self. And, it's really funny, just like with Jill Bolte Taylor, sometimes when I get in that right brain place, I need that left brain to, organize me, right? To go, come back to this particular vibrational reality that I live in now, okay, and pay my bills and remember where I put my checkbook, all those things. So I think the important thing is to, first of all, that you forgot to remember is one of the key parts to this work. I had a very interesting friend when I was in high school, and he and I would have some of the most interesting conversations, and I have never forgotten one time he said to me, "Christi, the secret to life is to remember to remember." And I have found that to be so true, that our thoughts think us or we think our thoughts. And the idea of remembering to remember is really to remember to think the thoughts that we want to think. Now, it's not so important that you didn't remember this particular thing. What's really important is to see the example of that and to choose your thoughts that you want to remember to think. That we want to create no room in our thoughts. We want to use our thoughts that we choose to think to squeeze out everything we don't want to think. And so that's what's important, not did you remember this assignment, but do you see that the practice of thinking what we choose to think deliberately is the practice of kind of lassoing our thought process into continually moving in the direction of our dream. And one of our main dreams, all of us, is wellness. Not just wellness in health, but wellness in finances, wellness in our relationships, wellness in everything. And so it's like this great measurement. Is this a wellness thought? It was like the thought I had midair. My first thought was, oh shit. And the second thought was, I am well. It's like, can we train our thinking to be continually thoughts moving us in the direction of our dreams?
Thank you for listening to this podcast. Here are 2 exclusive podcast listener offers. First, for a limited time, podcast listeners can work with Christi in person at a deep discount. Christi offers a unique coaching modality of her own creation that helps clients discover their own answers to where they're stuck and how to move forward. As one of her clients puts it, it always works. This transformative process is designed to help you identify blocks and create breakthroughs in your personal and professional life. As a thank you for listening to the podcast, you're eligible for a special discount. Normally $97 for a half-hour introductory session, podcast listeners get a $70 discount automatically applied if you use this link, masteringtheartoflife.com/podcast-IWD-offer. That's masteringtheartoflife.com/podcast-IWD-offer. And that link is in the podcast general description as well. Second, you can get the entire library of Mastering the Art of Life with PDF notes and worksheets for each lesson, plus bonuses at no cost at masteringtheartoflife.com/9-month opt-in, all one word, masteringtheartoflife.com/9-month opt-in. That link is also in the general podcast description.